you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Folks, this is Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Welcome to the big show, my family and friends. We certainly appreciate you guys being here. As always, for 16 years and 23 episodes, we bring you the Chris Voss Show. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may buy advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Well, we've got an amazing young man on the show with us today. He's going to be talking about his book that came out February 26, 2024. It is entitled Chairman Biden and Dr. Fauci's Monster by Ronald Alfred Weitzman. Welcome to the show, Ronald. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. But if you call me young, I very much appreciate that. I'll be 95 at the end of this month.
95 is still young these days. 95 is the new 40. So, Ronald, give us .coms. Where do you want people to find your website on the internet?
raweitzman.com. RAWEITZMA. Please visit. You'll enjoy it.
And your book, Chairman Biden and Dr. Fauci's Monster, give us a 30,000 overview of what's inside.
What's it about?
Yes, what is it about, sir?
It's about our current political situation in the United States, particularly during the Biden administration and now afterwards, and the after effects of that and the relationship between the two political parties now.
So does this have to do with the whole years of COVID and different interesting things like that?
I had a whole chapter on COVID there, but I also have one on abortion and one on the 2020 election, one on the two political parties, and one on sex education to put children in elementary school, and other chapters.
So what is the title, Chairman Biden and Dr. Fauci's Monster? What does that title refer to?
I know Biden was really president. I thought from the very beginning. And it turned out that he did, that he was kind of a chairman of the board, or he let other people run the country. He didn't really know himself what was going on. He certainly was no Donald Trump with respect to his mental ability.
And so why do you call Dr. Fauci's Monster? What is that reference to?
Dr. Fauci's Monster is the pandemic, and I likened it to Frankenstein.
Ah, Frankenstein, huh?
Because it was Frankenstein that had a monster, and Fauci, which also begins with an F, had his own monster, and that was the pandemic.
The pandemic was definitely a monster. Took a lot of money out of my pockets.
Creating it because he provided the funds to the Chinese laboratory that it came out of.
The Wuhan Clinic, I believe it's called. Something like that.
If anybody disagrees with that, prove it.
So what is your thesis of the book?
Excuse me?
What is the compelling overall thesis of the book and what you're trying to communicate to readers that you want them to learn?
I had been a Democrat, but I could not vote for Hillary Clinton because I thought she was a sociopathic liar. I just couldn't do it. And I wasn't the only one who thought that. But I'm a psychologist. I had the sociopathic in there. With some qualification. And anyway, my wife has been a lifelong Republican, and we had watched Hannity when he was on television with Combs. And when Combs left, I left too as a Democrat. But then when I could not vote for Hillary, my wife advised me to start listening to Hannity again, which I did for President Trump. And I thought, I rationalized, well, at least Trump didn't need the money that other politicians need to be motivated to do things for people other than the people who voted for them. And so I voted for him, and Then I found out he did everything he said he was going to do, and I got to think he was a good president. I'm not a Republican. I left the Democratic Party. I'm an independent now. I could no longer be a Democrat, and a lot of other Democrats feel that way more and more every day.
And why are you an independent and not a, if I can stir the pot a little bit, why are you an independent and not a full Republican?
I did what?
Why are you said you're an independent voter now. Why aren't you a full Republican by chance?
I disagree with the Republicans on the issue of abortion. And I think that I have a whole chapter in my book. If you let me talk about it, I'd explain why, if you want me to do that now.
Please do.
Briefly, the Supreme Court, when it overturned Roe v. Wade, referred to the 10th Amendment. They call it the States' Rights Amendment. It's also a People's Rights Amendment because it says that any powers that are not forbidden, that's not delegated by the Constitution to the states, nor prohibited by it, it's not delegated to the United States, nor prohibited by it to the states. They use the word, they mean all the individual states. Then it's relegated to the, unless it's prohibited by the Constitution to the states, it's relegated to the states. But it is, unfortunately, it is prohibited to the states because in the First Amendment, the very first part of the First Amendment says that the Congress shall make no laws interfering with the free practice of religion. In the Jewish religion, which is my religion, there's no prohibition against abortion at any time during pregnancy because, according to Jewish law, life doesn't begin until the fetus takes its first breath. So all the religions differ. Catholics say that it begins at, I'm not asking which one is wrong, I'm just saying it differs from religion to religion.
Yes.
And all apart from that, no abortion to free abortion or any time in between for different reasons. Mm-hmm. And so it's a religious issue, and Congress can't interfere with the free practice of religion. And according to the Supremacy Clause in the Constitution in Article 6, Clause 2, neither can any state. If the Congress can't do something, neither can any state. If the Congress can't interfere with free speech in the same amendment, neither can any state. So the same applies to religion. So somebody, probably a Jewish woman who's pregnant or her Jewish doctor, should take this issue through the courts to the Supreme Court because I think they need to make a new opinion and revise their most recent one. And that would be favorable to the position of the Democrats, though, for a different reason.
Yeah. So your political position, and I imagine you fleshed this out in the book, is that you're for abortion and the freedom of being able to make a choice.
I'm not for abortion. I don't like the word choice and life are. You say choice doesn't mean that when you say life doesn't mean that the other side doesn't believe in life. And those are slogans. I didn't use slogans.
Okay.
I said,
I'm sorry.
Neither Congress nor any state legislature can make a law that interferes with the free practice of religion. And you can't have the Catholic religion or Protestant religion or Muslim or religion dictate what people can do or not do in any state any more than you can do it in the United States. Oh. And maybe other countries are different. They don't have an amendment law like that.
It's kind of interesting how a lot of legislation rises up through the states. So one of the things we could never get was a federal approval for gay marriage. And enough states eventually enacted it to a point that it became federal law, federally accepted in the minds of Americans. A lot of other laws have been passed up the way through that. Marijuana's kind of on that road right now where it might be legal, might not.
That's true. I don't know, maybe someone else could figure it out. It's not a matter of religion. Whether a religion could take up, if all the religions took different positions about intermarriage between a male and a female and or a black person and a white person, if any religion had that, that would be an issue. But I don't believe any religion takes a religious viewpoint on those issues.
Okay. So in your book, what else haven't we covered that we want to tease out to people that you discuss in your book so that people can pick it up?
What can they do about the book if people want?
No, I'm asking what other things in the book do you have that you want people to know about?
Right now, there are a lot of things in there, global warming and that kind of thing, but particularly now I'm concerned as a former Democrat about the Democratic Party. Okay. Because it's interesting that the Democrats were really trying to be the single party in the United States by packing the Supreme Court and getting 2 Democratic states added to the Union, which would probably cement their position and control of the country for years. In their efforts to do that, they got their wish, but they got the other party in that place. Because now it looks as though the Republican Party is going to be the party for a long time. The Democrats are floundering in hatred and fear. They have nothing positive to say. They just hate Trump.
Huh. That's interesting. I hear a lot of voices. I hear hate on both sides. I hear anti each other on both sides. But that's what's in your book. What was your take on COVID? How did you feel about that?
On COVID, I thought that the country, that the federal government really overstepped its way. It did not follow the evidence on COVID that was all over the world, that a lot of people at Stanford and Johns Hopkins were saying all along that if you get COVID, you're immune to it afterwards. And that didn't bother Biden. He didn't care whether you're immune or not. So he didn't get the vaccination. And then that's talking about Hitler. You didn't get the vaccination, be kicked out of the army or lose your job. You know, and he had no basis for doing that, just by fire, just by what they wanted, the government wanted to do, because that wasn't the science. Same thing about children. The children have to, a whole generation of children are suffering because of the virus. They did not catch it. He wouldn't believe it, but that was a fact. Children were, unless they had a comorbidity, they did not get the virus. So it was just to protect the teachers. And the teachers, if they're young, they probably were healthy, they probably wouldn't get it either. Because young and healthy people, years old, I didn't have any symptoms ever.
Do you spend a lot of time outside?
You know,
do you interact with people a lot? I mean, I got COVID from interacting with people. I avoided it for the first 4, almost 5 years because I work from home. I do all my business at home. I'm a single guy, so I didn't really go out much. And I avoided getting it because I was pretty isolated. Now, we believe in facts in this show, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. And, of course, you have an opinion you've put forth in the book. There were many children who did die of COVID. There was 4.4 million COVID deaths, and 0.4% occurred in children and adolescents under the 20 years of age.
Those statistics weren't so reliable either, because when we went to a hospital, they always tested you for COVID, regardless of why you went there. You could have gone there with a broken leg, but if you tested for COVID, you were in a hospital entry for COVID.
Yeah.
So a lot of people who went there for other reasons were counted as COVID sickness. And that was great.
Yeah, because you're highly infectious and you can pass the disease to other people. I passed it to my mother. I was so highly infectious. She came over one time to take care of me and got COVID. My sister was in a care center, and everybody there got COVID and passed it around 4 or 5 times now.
My wife never got it either. I mean, look, she's 86. I mean, we just didn't get it. We were out with everybody, stopped at Costco and other places with people.
I mean, it kind of is exposure thing. It depends on how much you're exposed to the public. Like I say, I've stayed pretty isolated for the 4 years. I didn't get COVID. And a lot of people can't do what I do, where they work at home and live at home, and they don't have to go to schools. They don't have kids and wives and stuff that bring home the flus and colds. So what are some other things in your book you want people to know about so they can pick it up?
Was that a question? I didn't hear that.
What are some other things that are in the book you want people to know about?
The global warming is another one.
Okay.
There's a lot in my book about how we persuade people to do certain things. For example, how we get the young people to carry signs and support Hamas instead of the Israel.
Yeah, and that's something, huh?
I mean, you get these children to go out there thinking the world's going to come to the end if we don't have windmills or we don't have solar power. And all those things are good, but it's not true either. What happens is that People, I'm a psychologist, and let me just get in a little bit into this. People have consciences, and the reason we do have consciences psychologically is that we don't operate on the basis of instincts the way other animals do, but we do have instincts that we feel very lightly. Sort of, and we feel guilty when we don't respond to them. And we're social animals, for example. If we don't behave socially, we feel a little guilty. And what the Marxist people, the people on the far left, think that is that religion, and they tend to be anti-religious, even if they're Jewish or they're Christian, or whatever they were at the beginning, they tend to be either atheistic or agnostic, because they think that religious people use this conscience of ours and our feeling of guilt there's a justification, what they call original sin. And that gets you to do a lot of things. That fear controls people. And so the Marxists try to control people too by putting fears like global warming into them. They rile up the same sort of guilt feelings, and the people go out thinking they have a holy cause. I don't think it's based on fact. I'm also a statistician, and their statistics are all screwed up in the climatology business. So they have no sound basis. And I have a whole chapter on that.
Let me ask you this, because I'm not a scientist, and I'll push back a little. I've lived 57 years. You've lived 94. There's obviously a lot more global disasters, global warming issues going on than ever before. I mean, you look at, we just had a first 100-year hurricane or tornado in California, watching half of California burn down practically. I'm embellishing a little bit.
Yeah, that's weather, not climate. We always have extreme weather. There's not more extreme than we've had before. You can't use a symptom just one symptom to diagnose a disease.
Huh. That's an interesting opinion to voice in your book. I'm skeptical of everything, but it's become apparent the dangers are getting worse. And in fact, we've had insurance people on the show. That one of the reasons insurers are pulling out of California and Florida is because there's more global warming disasters that are happening. So it's kind of a hard sell.
Well, the extreme weather doesn't mean global warming. People have said, I'm involved in the water issue locally, and people in California have said that we're going to have a drought for years because of global warming. The last 3 years were heavy rain years. So what do you do about that? And we've had, even during my lifetime, several times where it's got hot increasingly for a number of years, and it's cooled off again.
Yep. What else is in the book that we should tease out to people?
The most controversial was probably the 2020 election. I explain why constitutionally it was an unconstitutional election. It was Mike Pence's fault that he had the opportunity to take the issue to the Supreme Court when he had the vote count in the joint session of Congress. He chose not to do it. He took the oath of office to defend the Constitution, and he did not do it. All he had to do was ask each person who presented the vote count in the state whether the appointment of their electors had been done according to the Constitution. And that meant that only by the means that the state legislature decreed. And in 4 or 5 states, that was not true.
Now, this has been visited upon by multiple courts, including the Supreme Court. How do you square that circle?
How do I do what?
Now, this has been legislated before multiple courts, I believe, including the Supreme Court, up to the Supreme Court. How do you make that argument when the courts have ruled otherwise, that it was constitutional?
Ruled otherwise to what did they rule otherwise to?
That Mike Pence acted constitutionally when he did basically what the role is. I mean, the roll call of the vice president in calling the roll of the votes is just to call the roll. There's no other... It's not a position of decision or a change-up of any type. It's his job is just to read the notes. That's it. That says that in the Constitution.
I mean, when they had the joint session of Congress, that didn't say that in the Constitution, that he should just read the vote. He took it to defend the Constitution. If he asked each pretender whether the state had appointed the electors in accordance with the Constitution, 4 states would have said it wasn't true because it wasn't. In Wisconsin, they had the Supreme Court judges determine the election the way they did with the boxes, the voting boxes all over. That was not according to the legislature, even the Constitution.
Huh.
So,
did you review the court cases by chance? Did you review the court cases by chance that the courts litigated over this? Because they did.
You see, if Mike Pence had asked them that and asked them to swear under oath that they had followed the Constitution, would have had to say no. And then it would have gone to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court would have had to have heard the case because these were the directly affected parties. 17 states brought that issue to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court didn't hear it because they said the states did not have standing. Mike Pence was right in the position to put that right back to the Supreme Court where they'd have to consider it. And if they considered it honestly, they would have to say that it had to go to Congress to make the decision. Because the 4 states didn't have the votes.
So what else in the book do you want people to learn as they read it and walk away from it?
About abortion?
About everything that's in the book. Is there anything we missed that you'd like to tease out to people to get them to buy the book?
If they disagree with me about any of these things, read it, and then I'd be glad to hear from them and see what they have to write about it. Mm-hmm. So far, nobody's done that. Nobody has complained about anything in the book that I've seen. Because I'm not trying to get on a stool and argue and shout and use foul language. I've tried to defend my things with facts. Mm-hmm. So however the decision falls, I follow the facts. Some support Democrats, some support Republicans. Mm-hmm. And if they want to follow the facts, and if they have other facts to contravene mine, I'd be glad to hear it and see them.
As we go out, give people the final pitch. Tell them where they can pick up your book and your .com, where they can review you on your website.
On my website, there are reviews there, book reviews of it. There are television interviews I've had that are on there. There's background material there. I think it would be worth visiting the website, and it shows you how you can buy the book. You can get it on Amazon or other places. And if you get it in any format, you can get it in an oral version, so you can just listen to it. You get it in paperback, or you can get it in hardback, or even by Kindle.
Mm-hmm. So people can pick up the book wherever fine books are sold. Thank you very much for coming on the show. I certainly appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
And thanks for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, one of the TikTokity, and all those crazy places in it. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time. And that should have